I never imagined that a single simple gesture could make my entire world shift beneath my feet. It was one of those afternoons where the house sat in a strange, almost unsettling stillness. I had spent the earlier part of the day tidying up, running through, my routine like muscle memory. But now I felt completely drained. Age had a way of creeping in slowly. Then, all at once, every joint, every muscle reminding me of times quietest. Dirk. My husband had just left for work. I thought a short nap might help soothe the exhaustion that clung to me. But just as I settled onto the couch, I heard a soft knock at the door. It was Ethan, my nephew. 24 now had grown into a striking young man. Lately, I'd noticed a subtle shift in the way he looked at me, not overt, not inappropriate, but something in his gaze lingered a little longer than it used to. He had always been reserved and courteous, and today was no exception. "At least on the surface, Aunt Laura, you look tired," he said gently, as he stepped inside, his voice low and warm. "Can I help with anything?" I offered a faint smile, my eyelids heavy with fatigue. "A back rub would be lovely if you don't mind," I replied, half joking but half hoping for a moment of relief. He paused as if weighing the moment, then gave a short nod. "Of course, I know where the tension usually settles." Ethan sat down behind me, his hands finding my shoulders. His touch was confident, too confident. I tried to let myself relax, but there was something unfamiliar in the way his fingers moved. This wasn't like the casual massages he gave years ago. This felt intentional. His hands pressed deeper, tracing along the contours of my back, and I struggled to ignore the subtle change in the air around us. The room felt heavier. His fingers drifted lower, crossing into a space that made something stir uneasily inside. "Is that better?" he asked, his voice now barely above a whisper. He had leaned in close, too close. I could feel the heat of his breath against my neck, and it sent a chill through me. I nodded even, though nothing about my body felt calm. Some part of me wanted to shift away to stop what was happening. But I didn't move. My mind raced, trying to understand why his touch lingered, why it felt different. Then he said something that cut through the silence like a spark in dry air. "You've always been so strong, Aunt Laura. You deserve to feel something more." His words lingered, suspended in the tension between us. And then before I could respond, his hand drifted further down my back. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. Ethan's touch remained, steady, his fingers unmoving, as if daring me to respond. The room felt tighter, the walls closing in. I told myself I was imagining, things that I was reading too much into. A moment I didn't understand, but his hands didn't lie. They moved deliberately too. Deliberately. And it still didn't pull away. "You deserve to relax," Ethan murmured again, the cadence of his voice low and unnervingly soothing. "You're always doing so much. Just let me take care of you." I sat there suspended between two selves. One screamed for this, to stop that this was wrong, confusing, dangerous. But the other, the one worn down by years of responsibility, by silence and isolation, wanted to surrender just for a moment, just to be cared for. I wasn't proud of that part of me, but I couldn't pretend it wasn't there. And just as I gave in to that softness, something shifted. Again, his hands slid lower, brushing against places that made my body stiffen. My skin tingled. Not with comfort, but discomfort. I fought to stay composed, to breathe, to understand what was happening. Was he crossing a line? Or had I already allowed him? To Aunt Laura. "Are you okay?" he whispered. His voice was barely audible, and I could feel him lean even closer. His breath now fully, brushing against my skin. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My body had turned rigid, every sense on alert. His hand moved again this time, far too close to what should have remained untouched. The warmth of his palm burned through the fabric of my shirt, and my entire frame tensed. It felt as though the room had collapsed into a vacuum. There was no space left between us, no air to breathe, no boundary. Left untested. Then he whispered, something that made the blood drain from my face. "I've always noticed you, Aunt Laura. You've always been so beautiful." His voice rang in my ears, like an echo in a sealed room. My mind blanked, stunned. What had he just said? What was happening? I tried to move, tried to create distance. But his hands stayed where they were, pressing into my back, anchoring me in place. I turned my head slightly, just enough to glimpse his face. His eyes were dark, unreadable. The easygoing boy I'd helped raise was gone, replaced by something else. Someone else. "Aunt Laura," he said, his tone no longer tentative. "I just want you to feel good. You deserve it." The pressure in the room built unbearable. Every instinct in me urged me to run, to say no, to end this, but I couldn't move. My body overwhelmed and confused. Wouldn't cooperate. And then, sensing my paralysis, Ethan made the next move for both of us. He leaned in, his lips grazing my ear, and whispered, "One last thing. Don't worry, Aunt Laura. I won't hurt you." But his voice had an edge to it, a quiet intensity that sent a wave of dread over me. I could feel the heat from Ethan's breath against my ear, but I didn't know how to react. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, yet I couldn't bring myself to confront him. It was like time had stopped, like the room had closed in on us, leaving no way out. I wasn't sure if I was still processing the situation, or if I had simply become numb to the overwhelming tension. My body tensed, fighting against my mind, but it didn't seem to matter. His touch was too persistent, too commanding. I took a shallow breath, trying to steady myself. "Ethan Stowe," I managed to say, but my voice trembled. It wasn't a command, it was a player. But he didn't stop. He barely flinched instead. His hand slid further down my back, over the curve of my spine, until I felt his fingertips brush against the waistband of my pants. My heart pounded in my chest, and my skin felt like it was on fire. I wanted to push him away, to shout, but no sound escaped my lips. I could feel his fingers moving in deliberate circles, his touch almost hypnotic. Ethan whispered again, his voice low and filled with something unfamiliar. "You deserve to feel good. You've always been so strong for everyone else. Don't you want to feel good for yourself?" I wanted to scream, to push him away, but my body froze. It was like I was trapped in my own skin, unable to break free from the grip he had on me. Not just physically, but emotionally. My mind screamed at me to stand up, to end this madness. But I couldn't. I couldn't find the words, the strength to pull away. Suddenly I felt Ethan's hands pause, his fingertips lingering on my skin as he spoke again, his voice softer now, more coaxing. "You're beautiful, Aunt Laura. You've always been beautiful. You don't need to hide it." I felt his words sink deep inside me like a slow-burning fire. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't face him, but I could feel his eyes on me, watching every reaction, every breath I took. It was as if he was waiting for something, waiting for me to give in, waiting for me to let go of the boundaries I had spent years building. I couldn't deny the pull of his presence. There was something in the way he was speaking to me. Something in his touch that made it impossible to push him away. My mind and body were at each fighting for control, each desperate for a way out. But then, just as suddenly as it had started, Ethan stopped. His hand spooed away, and the tension in the room seemed to snap like a rubber band. I couldn't breathe. For a moment, Micah's tight, my thoughts scattered. It turned to face him, eyes wide and confused, searching Heist's expression for some sign, some explanation. but there was nothing. A calm, collected look that made it even more unsettling. Ethan's son smiled his face, relaxed as if nothing had happened. "You okay, and Laura?" I nodded, unsure of what to say, unsure of what I was feeling. I didn't know if I was more afraid of what had just happened or what it meant for the future. But there was one thing. I knew for certain. This moment, this feeling would haunt me for a long time. I sat there frozen, my mind scrambling to piece together the fragments of what had just happened. Ethan's sudden shift in demeanor, his calmness, the way he acted, like nothing had changed, left me reeling. I should have told him to leave, to never come back, but I couldn't. There was a strange sense of guilt gnawing at me, like I had allowed something to happen without stopping it, and now I could make sense of it. My heart raced, but I couldn't find the strength to speak. Ethan's son stood up, stretching his arms, as if he had just helped me through a normal back rub. His expression was casual, almost indifferent, like this was just another day. I stared at him, my chest tightening with every breath. He seemed so calm, sound affected. "Are you sure you're okay?" Aunt Loris, Ethan asked, his voice sincere, as though nothing had transpired. He was playing with me, and it made my stomach churn. I wanted to scream at him, tell him everything I had felt, the discomfort, the confusion, the disgust. But the words got stuck in my throat. "Yeah, I'm fine," finally managed to say, though the lie had tasted bitter. I forced a smile, even though I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of what had just happened. I had to get away from him. I had to get out of that room, but Ethan wasn't done. I saw it in his eyes, that familiar predatory glint that had been there earlier. His presence was almost too much to bear. I stood up, trying to appear confident, though I hadn't just been rattled to my core. But as I moved toward the door, Ethan stepped in front of me, blocking my way on Laura. His voice was low, almost coaxing, but there was something darker lurking beneath the surface. "You know, you don't have to pretend everything's okay. You can talk to me. I'm here for you." I tried to move past him, but his hand shot out, gently grabbing my wrist. The contact was light, but it sent a shock through me. My heart pounded as I looked down at his hand, not daring to meet his eyes. I wanted to tell him to let go, to tell him to get away from me, but my body wouldn't cooperate. It felt like I was paralyzed, trapped in this suffocating moment. "You don't have to hide. Anything from..." He continued, his thumb brushing lightly over my skin. "I know. You've been stressed. Laura, I can help. We can make you feel better together. It doesn't have to be so hard." I wanted to recoil, to push away. But this grip tightened just enough to make me feel it. Just enough to make me doubt myself. I could feel my skin flush, my body betraying me in ways I couldn't understand. Ethan and I whispered, my voice shaky, "Please let go for a moment." Had just stood there, his gaze locked on Mike. He was measuring me, reading me. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating, as if everything was steering on the edge of something I didn't want to acknowledge. Finally, he released me. But the space between us felt small, smaller than ever. His smile was almost too calm. To Asher, "Don't worry, Aunt Laura," he said, softly. "I'm just here to help. I always will be." The word sent a chill through. I forced myself to walk past him, my heart still racing. But as I reached the door, I heard him speak one last time. "You can't run away from this. You'll come back. Tom, I know you will." The door slammed behind me, but his words lingered in my mind like an echo, a promise that I wasn't sure I could escape. I couldn't shake off Ethan's words. "You'll come back to me," they repeated in my mind like a broken record. What did he mean by that what was trying to make me feel it knew I had to get away. But every time I thought I was gaining control, I found myself slipping deeper. The next morning, I woke up early, unable to sleep, haunted by the way Ethan had touched me, the way Hizzard had made me skin crawl, and yet at the same time left me feeling oddly exposed. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that maybe it was a weird misunderstanding, a moment of weakness, but deep down I knew better. I got out of bed trying to shake off the lingering thoughts, but they clung to me like second skin as I walked to the kitchen. I almost wished Ethan's son would stay away. But when I saw him sitting at the breakfast table, his eyes met mine with an unsettling calmness. It was like Heck knew everything, like he was waiting for him to come to terms with it. Whatever it was morning, Aunt Laura Ethan's song greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Couldn't bring myself to respond. Immediately, I just nodded and tried to act like nothing had happened. I moved to the counter preparing coffee, but my hands were shaking. I could feel his gaze on me, though, and it made everything feel too tight, too real. "You seemed a little off last night," he said, his voice casual, almost as if he were trying to make light of what had transpired. "Is everything okay?" I didn't know how to answer. How could I say no? Nothing's okay. "You crossed a line and now I can't look at you the same way again." I just couldn't find the words. "I'm fine," I said, forcing the words out. I turned toward him, meeting his gaze, trying to project strength. "I'm just tired." Ethan's son didn't respond immediately. He just looked at me like he was studying me. Heiss expression, unreadable. Then, as if nothing had changed, he smiled. That same unsettling smile. "You don't have to be so serious." "All the time," he said, his voice's mouth. "I just want you to feel good." "Aunt Laura, you deserve that, don't you?" There was a sickening sweetness to his tone, like he was trying to soften them manipulation, make it sound like concern, but I knew better, into confusion. I felt shiver crawl down my spine, my instincts screaming at me to get away. "I am fine, Ethan," I repeated, my voice firmer. This time, I didn't want to show him how affected I was, how much his presence alone was stared, to make me question. Everything, I grabbed my coffee mug and walked toward the living room, needing space, needing distance. But Ethan's son didn't let me go that easily, followed me standing in the doorway, his posture casual but his eyes intense. "You can't hide from this, Aunt Laura," he said, his voice now low, almost a whisper. "I know you felt something last night, and I know you want more." I froze, the weight of his word scratching into me. My pulse quickened. My mind raced to find an answer, a way to deny what he was suggesting. But nothing. Came his words hung in the air, poisoning the space between us. "I don't want to hear this. I say it," my voice trembling. "Despite my beast efforts, you need to leave." Ethan's son's eyes darkened just for a moment, but then I gave a soft chuckle, like he was enjoying every second of my discomfort. "You can't escape this, Alora. We're connected now, whether you like it or not." I couldn't stand the suffocating tension any longer. My head was spinning, my heart hammering in my... This wasn't something I could end in. Not anymore. But could I really stand up to him? Could I break free from whatever hold he had on me, just as I was about to respond? I heard the sound of the front door opening. My heart skipped a beat. It was my husband Greg walking in from work. The relief that washed over me was instant. But it was also mixed with fear. What if he had noticed the tension between us? What if he had already figured it out? "Hey guys," Greg said, looking between us. She's eyes flicking with concern. "Everything okay?" "Here." I barely managed to smile. "Yeah, everything's fine," I said, trying to sound normal, but I knew that I was lying, and Greg could sense it. He stepped closer, looking at Ethan, then me. "You sure you both look a little often?" Son was the first to respond, his voice smooth, his face an open mask of innocence. "Everything's fine. Uncle Greg, just talking to Aunt Laura." She a little stressed, but nothing serious. Greg nodded, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. It was like heck, knew something wasn't right. And for the first time, I felt like I was being trapped from all sides. Ethan's son's grip on me was tightening, and I didn't know how to get out of it. The days after, that morning felt like a blur. I couldn't shake the feeling of Ethan's eyes following me, his words echoing in my head. "We're connected." Now, whether you like it or not, it was Asef. He had planted a seed in my mind, and now it was growing, twisting everything into something dark and uncomfortable. Every time I saw him, my skin crawled, but I couldn't escape him. He was everywhere, acting like nothing was wrong. He'd smile at me with that unnerving calmness. And all I could do was return a stiff, forced smile he started, avoiding him coming up with excuses to leave the house. Spending long hours at work, pretending to focus on anything but the twisted web he was weaving around me. But no matter how far I tried to distance myself, I could still feel him lurking in the corners, waiting for me to crack. It wasn't until one evening, when he came home late from a meeting, that everything fell apart. Opened the door to the house, expecting the usual silence. But this time something was different. The lights were dim, the soft hum of the television filling the space, and I immediately felt an unsettle in my guest. I stepped into the living room, and there he was, Ethan sitting on a couch, his posture relaxed, but the moment answered his eyes locked into mine. Cold and calculating. "Aunt Laura, you're home late," he said, his voice laced with something I couldn't quite place. I froze, suddenly aware of how alone we were in the house. Greg had worked late that night, and I was left alone with Ethnon. I should have felt relieved, I told myself. But instead there seemed thick, suffocating. I had to finish some work. It stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. Then Son didn't move. He just stared at me with that same unnerving intensity. "You know you don't have to pretend, Aunt Laura. I know things have been hard between us." My breath hitched in my throat. My heart raced, but I stood still, too afraid to turn away. "What do you mean?" He smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile that sent a chill down my spine. A smile that made me feel like prey, trapped and exposed. "Know what you're really thinking?" He said, his voice low and almost teasing. "You've been avoiding me, haven't you? You're afraid. Afraid of what we've done. Afraid of what we might do again." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "But you can't avoid. Hate. Forever, Aunt Laura. I'm here, and I always will be." My breath quickened and my mind raced. I had to get out of here. I had to leave before it went any further. But as I took a step back, Ethan was already standing in front of me, blocking my path. His body was close, too close, and I could feel the heat radiating from him. "On, Laura," he said softly. Lie, his voice suddenly, tender, almost soothing. "You don't have to fight this. You don't have to keep pretending. I know how much you need this. How much you want it." Wanted to push him away, scream and call for help, but I couldn't. My body froze. His words were like a spell wrapping around me, making me question. Everything has reached out, brushing against my arm, lightly sending an electric shock through me. "I know you're scared," he whispered, leaning in closer. "But it's okay, you can trust me." And for ammo, I almost believed him. My heart raced, my mind, a swirl of conflicting thoughts. Could it rust him? Was I really just being manipulated? Or was there a part of me that was too weak to resist? Suddenly the sound of the front door opening shattered the silence. It was Greg. Ethan soon stepped back, Heist expression instantly changing, returning to that calm, innocent mask. "Just talking to Aunt Laura," he said, smoothly his voice. As easy as ever, nothing to worry about in AED. But my thoughts were elsewhere, focused on Ethanson. I couldn't let my guard down again. Thirst of the night pea in a blurris. I lay in bed later. My mind raised. Ethan's words. Words is touch everything. Been. Too much? It wasn't over. I knew that now he wasn't going to stop.